Hi and welcome to my top 10 tips for Jurassic World Evolution 2's challenge mode. Now I'm going to be taking all of the information I have gathered from completing all of the challenge modes and try and give as much of it to you as I can. Whether you want to be completing Jurassic challenge mode for skins, for trophies, just for the achievement of it, these are here to help you with your journey in that conquest if you are finding this at all difficult to complete. As I did at first, but then there were some tips and tricks you learn along the way that really do make it a much easier and nicer experience to play. So, before I get into it, please remember to like and subscribe, it really does help me out. And yeah, let's do it. Okay, so the first tip I would give you is, I think if you're going to take anything away from this video, take this away from it. Never release social or aggressive dinosaurs into your park. Not even if you've just spent $1 million on synthesizing a couple Suchomimuses, never do it. Because if you're ever going to include more than one dinosaur in that enclosure, you are going to find yourself in a whole world of trouble when it comes to the MVU teams and getting that and keeping the dinosaurs healthy, because they will be fighting each other non-stop. The aggressive one is something you can't really fix. However, the social one is seen as a good thing for some reason, and I see for some dinosaurs it could be, because it increases social interaction and could make them nicer. So for things like Struthiomimuses and Parasaurolophuses that don't really fight, it's mainly a positive. But with things like Triceratopses, any of the carnivores, it also adds that dreaded plus 30% to dominance, which will cause you many issues in your time trying to complete this. And if you're trying to keep multiple carnivores in one enclosure, it's just more hassle than it's worth, so just don't do it. And on top of this, there are no genes that are really worth changing to do with the size of the exhibit, like thirst or anything like that. There's no real point to that. However, I do recommend investing in the research and maybe adding this to a couple of your dinosaurs for dinosaurs that are prone to being antisocial, because that can cause its own issues. And dinosaurs that are known to be intolerant if you're going to plan on having multiple species, especially for herbivores in the exhibit, because this will start to cause you some issues with the cohabitation. So I do recommend keeping an eye on those, because really the only thing you need to keep an eye on is keeping the dinosaurs exhibits good enough and keeping the dinosaurs happy and not fighting with the other dinosaurs in the enclosure. That is really all you need to be worrying about with them, as long as they have food and water and all of the basic stuff I would hope you would know coming into this video. Okay, so now we're going to get a bit into the structure of the park, because this could be where you have a couple shortcomings and do begin to experience some issues. Okay, so number 3, add unnecessary paths to your park. Now, this does sound a bit weird, but trust me, you will thank yourself later. When you have reached your path limit and you can have no more guests, and you're struggling to get from that 4.8 to that 5.0 and complete the challenge mode, you are going to thank yourself for placing 5 different pathways to a different segment of the island, as well as a monorail as well. It's really going to help you out late game, and especially to do with this, if you aren't already investing in better paths and trying to get your way up to the luxury thoroughfare, then you are really capping yourself at what star rating you're able to get to. So never stick with the standard path, really, if you can go to the luxury one and you can afford it. But never stick to the low. If you can get the higher path thing, then you should invest in the higher path thing. It's just better all around. And sure, it might cost a bit more money, but as long as you're not in some bad situation money-wise anyway, it's not too expensive. And if you are in that situation, it's probably already time for a quick restart or go back. Something else to do with the layout of the park is, while placing these paths, it is really, or not the paths, but it's just important in general to be leaving space for your amenities. What I mean by this is, when you've just started up and you're setting up your first exhibit, got some small amenities, leave a couple, like half an amenity size either side of each of those amenities. Because that means that when it comes to upgrading your amenities, when you have loads of dinosaurs in the park and they're at max capacity and you have luxury main thoroughfares to max capacity everywhere, these small amenities aren't going to cut it. And to save you having to do a huge amount of reshuffling in your park, this space will allow you to just delete the small amenity and upgrade it straight away to a large amenity, rapidly increasing the amount of guests that can use your amenities, increasing the amount of money you can get, increasing your rating, and just being great all around. Another thing to do with the amenities is to make sure the modules are good. as you need to keep all of the modules in the blue tick zone, not only because it will increase your profits greatly, but it will also increase your rating, I believe, as more guests will want to go there because it has the modules that they want to experience for their different guest type, whether they be a thrill guest or a luxury guest. So yeah, that's a really important thing to keep an eye on as well. Now, another thing that is only specific to a few of the maps, but is quite an important thing still, is to remember to capture the wild dinosaurs if there are any. Now, the two I think this applies to is the United Kingdom map, homeland of myself, and the Grand Canyon map. Both of these have a large amount of wild dinosaurs, and you should definitely invest in a ranger station. As I think in the UK that is the main thing it wants you to do, but you should capture these dinosaurs as quickly as you can. On the UK map, I recommend going for the Nigersaurus first, and then the Dracorexes, and then the Nozutoceratopses, because straight off the bat, you're not going to have the resources or research ability to cope with Baryonyx, which is going to require a Piscivore feeder, which is 3 levels up the feeder chain. And yeah, it's just, they're the best dinosaurs to start with, so you need to go start with them, basically. On the Canada map, there is one Brachiosaurus. So, sure, I guess it is worth it to get that early game, just to get that quick boost, like a couple hundred boost to the rating. So yeah, I do recommend going to get that, but again, it's not as important as it's going to be in the Grand Canyon and United Kingdom, where you start with really low money in the expectation, instead of going through the classic route of incubating, synthesizing a dinosaur, you're just going to get a ranger team, knock them out, and transport them into your exhibit where they will then be yours. Another thing is to make sure you do it as quickly as you can as well, because until you get those dinosaurs in an enclosure, you are going to be leaking money like a madman, especially on the Grand Canyon map, which I have had many issues with. I've had to restart that 2 or 3 times now, but especially with that, you're going to want to go as quickly as you can. Make sure you have your pro league aim. Yeah, you're going to want to go at the best aim you can, get these dinosaurs tranquilized, transported into a happy enclosure where they can be seen and there are amenities there as quickly as you can to get the cash flow rolling. On top of this, when you do get your dinosaurs into the enclosure, you are going to want to make sure they can be seen, because as opposed to the first game where viewing didn't really make any difference at all, in this game, if you don't have viewing galleries, you basically don't have a dinosaur. If you have a Megalosaurus that has 700 rating, without the viewing gallery, it may only have 200 rating, and that sort of thing. So it's really important to make sure your dinosaurs are seen. So if you're building a monorail, make sure that monorail goes over enclosures to add a bit more visibility time. Make sure if you're using gyrospheres or tour routes, you upgrade the amount of tour routes or gyrospheres that are going through there as much as you can, which I think is to 10. Add viewing galleries to reach the back of large enclosures. Just make sure, like, as much as your dinosaur exhibits are covered in the little blue thing as much as you can, basically, because that will keep your appeal stable. Because especially if you have a tour route, only one tour route going through an exhibit instead of a few viewing galleries as well, and it's a bit patchy in places with the viewing galleries, that could mean that your appeal is fluctuant. So 1 minute you're at 4.9 stars, trying your hardest to get get all the little amenities built to get you up to 5 stars, and then the second later, your Megalosaurus has stood in front of the tour vehicles and they've all halted, and your rating has dropped down to a 4.5. So making sure your visibility is good and keeping the infrastructure to add additional viewing platforms and stuff as well is really important. Now, one of the things I have done in a few of my parks, which I think has worked pretty well, is make sure, instead of building, say, an exhibit to house 3 Ceratosaurus, an exhibit to house 4 Carnotaurus, make one giant exhibit to house, say, 15 Metrocanthiosauruses, and then a little exhibit to hold Astruthiomimus, Triceratops, and some other small herbivores to try and keep the diversity rating up, so you're not getting too much of a penalty from having just one type of dinosaur. So you can get the brute force rating through giant exhibits that have 5 tour routes running through them and 500 T-Rexes in, and then you can remove the penalty from the lack of diversity from smaller herbivores in a mini exhibit that has like one viewing gallery to keep that, like, to keep them all viewed. So I think that tactic does work quite well, and it's worked quite well for me in the past, at least anyway. So yeah, number 9, going to want to use the management view and in combination with the guest menu to see what you need to build where. So say you check on the guest menu and it says you only have 96% restroom rating. You go into the management view and you look for the red areas where you need to build a restroom. You find it, you try and make space for a toilet there, you build it, and hopefully that can push you over the edge maybe if you're struggling near the end of your park build. So yeah, that works quite well for a lot of things. The management view is way more useful in this game, I feel, because the management side of it is much more in depth, and like before, you never, like in the first game, you never even had to care about viewing. It's just place loads near viewing galleries and you'd be good, but now there's a bit more strategy to it. Like, even it's where guests are that need it, not where the viewing galleries are, if that makes sense. Number 10 on this list is to make sure to save. Every time you see the little symbol for storm pop up in the top of the screen, save. Every time you're about to make a giant investment in synthesizing a dinosaur, save. Every time a dinosaur breaks out, save. Every time there's a new medical issue, save. Save as much as you can. And on top of saving, every time you get a storm or something like that, make sure to pause. If you see a notification something has been broken, pause, go see what it is. If it's something minor, continue playing the game, or not playing the game, but press the play button and let it continue. But if you have already paused in its offense, you've caught it early, and you can stop any of your dinosaurs from escaping and wreaking havoc across your entire park. Now, I think this has been my entire list of Jurassic Challenge Mode tips and tricks for you to use. I really hope this has been helpful for you guys at home. These tips have definitely been helpful for me, and they've really helped me get through the Jurassic Challenge modes, and I'm hoping to get to the Platinum in a couple months, or in a month, hopefully, maybe. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed, please remember to like and subscribe. It really does help me out. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. Bye.